A dog inherits an unexpected fortune, and the whole town wants to know what will happen. But no one was prepared for what he did. The incredible gesture of this four-legged heir surprised everyone. Want to find out how he changed lives and left the city in shock? Check it out now. The news spread quickly through the quiet town of Springfield, like wildfire in a dry summer field. Jack Thornton, the eccentric local millionaire, had passed away, leaving his entire fortune to his faithful four-legged companion, Max, a Labrador with a golden coat and gentle eyes. It was a typical autumn morning in Springfield, with the leaves on the trees beginning to change color, painting the city in shades of red and gold. The central square, normally quiet at that time of the morning, was buzzing with activity. Residents of all ages gathered in small groups, their voices rising in a mixture of astonishment, indignation, and curiosity. "Did you hear? Old Jack left everything to the dog," exclaimed Mildred Johnson, the local gossip, her eyes shining with the excitement of being the bearer of such juicy news. "That's ridiculous," replied George Peterson, the owner of the local grocery store. "What's a dog going to do with all that money? Buy gourmet cookies?" The nervous laughter that followed was interrupted by the arrival of Tom Wilson, a young teacher from the local school and a close friend of Jack's. His face was marked with sadness at the news. His face was marked by the sadness of loss, but there was a determination in his eyes that didn't go unnoticed. "Guys, I know this sounds crazy," Tom began, his calm voice cutting through the hubbub of the crowd. But Jack had his reasons. He loved this town as much as he loved Max. I'm sure he had a plan. Across the square, Olivia Martinez watched the scene with a mixture of curiosity and concern. As a single mother of two, she could barely make ends meet at the end of the month. The idea of so much money in a dog's paws seemed almost offensive. "Mommy, what's going on?" asked her youngest daughter, Lily, tugging on her sleeve. Olivia forced a smile. "Nothing, darling. Just people talking about Mr. Jack and his dog." Meanwhile, at the old Thornton mansion, Max was oblivious to the uproar his inheritance had caused. Lying on his favorite bed, he stared out of the window, his sad eyes fixed on the gate, as if he still expected to see Jack coming home. Tom entered the room, kneeling down next to Max. "Hey, buddy," he said softly, stroking the dog's head. "Looks like it's just the two of us now. But don't worry, we'll look after each other, okay?" Max looked at Tom, his brown eyes filled with an almost human understanding. He barked softly, as if in agreement. Tom smiled, feeling the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. "Jack always said you were special, Max, that you had a gift for bringing people together. Well, it looks like we're going to need that gift now more than ever." While Tom was making mental plans, the city was still in turmoil. At City Hall, Mayor Robert Adams was calling an emergency meeting. At the local bank, managers were discussing the legal implications of having a dog as a VIP customer, and on the streets, speculation ran wild. But amidst all the chaos, something was changing in Springfield. A spark of hope, faint as the first light of dawn, was beginning to ignite in the hearts of the residents. Maybe, just maybe, this strange situation could bring something good for everyone. As the sun set on that first day of the post-Jack era, Springfield was preparing for a journey that no one could have predicted. A journey that would test the bonds of community, challenge prejudices, and, in the end, reveal the true meaning of family and belonging. And at the center of it all was Max, the unlikely heir, whose pure heart and unwavering loyalty were about to change the lives of everyone around him in ways no one could have imagined. The Thornton mansion, once a symbol of solitary opulence, now buzzed with an unusual energy. Tom Wilson, with Max faithfully at his side, had called a meeting to discuss the future of the estate and its impact on the Springfield community. The afternoon sun filtered through the tall living room windows, illuminating anxious and curious faces. Tom observed the eclectic mix of residents who had answered his call, from Mayor Robert Adams, in his impeccable suit, to Joe, the local gas station attendant, still wearing his work overalls. "Thank you all for coming," Tom began, his voice firm but gentle. "I know the situation is unusual, but I believe Jack wanted us to use this opportunity to do something really special for Springfield." A murmur ran through the room, mixing skepticism and hope in equal parts. "With all due respect, Tom," interrupted Frank Miller, the town banker, "but how exactly is a dog going to make financial decisions?" Before Tom could answer, Max, as if understanding the question, walked over to Frank and put his head in the banker's lap. The unexpected gesture drew soft laughter from the crowd, breaking the tension. "Maybe that's the point," said a soft voice from the back of the room. Everyone turned to look at Olivia Martinez, who had decided to join in at the last minute. Maybe it's not about Max making decisions, but about us coming together to decide what's best for everyone. Tom smiled, grateful for the intervention. Exactly, Olivia. Jack has always believed in the power of community, and now more than ever, we need to come together. As the discussion progressed, ideas began to emerge. Mary, the librarian, suggested renovating the playground. John, the school coach, proposed a new sports center. Each suggestion brought with it a spark of hope, a vision of a better Springfield. However, not everyone shared the enthusiasm. In the corner of the room, Richard Anderson, a local businessman known for his greed, watched with a calculating glint in his eyes. For him, Jack's fortune represented an opportunity for personal gain, not community improvement. As the meeting continued, Olivia found herself getting more and more involved. Her own struggles as a single mother gave her a unique perspective on the needs of the community. With initial hesitation, she raised her hand. What if we thought about support programs for struggling families? Her voice shook slightly. Affordable daycare, after-school programs, things like that. The silence that followed was broken by Max, who walked up to Olivia and put his paw on her knee, as if to give his approval. The room erupted in applause and animated discussion. Tom watched the scene with a smile, remembering Jack's words. Max has a gift for bringing people together. He couldn't have been more right. As the sun set, painting the Springfield sky in shades of orange and pink, the meeting came to an end. People left the mansion with a new sense of purpose and community. Plans were made for a series of charity events, starting with an animal adoption fair, something Jack had always wanted to do. Tom stayed behind, stroking Max's head. "You did well today, buddy," he murmured. Jack would be proud. Meanwhile, outside, Olivia walked home, her heart light for the first time in months. Maybe, just maybe, things were about to change for the better in Springfield, but not everyone shared this optimism. Richard Anderson watched the crowd disperse with a gloomy look on his face. "It's not over," he muttered to himself. "Not really." As night fell over Springfield, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. Jack's legacy, through Max, was about to transform the city in ways no one could have predicted, and for better or worse, nothing would ever be the same again. The autumn sun shone over Springfield's Central Park, illuminating a scene of frenetic activity. Colorful tents dotted the lawn, festive banners swayed in the gentle wind, and the air was filled with the excited barking and laughter of children. The city's first animal adoption fair was about to begin. Tom Wilson, with Max by his side, was overseeing the final preparations. His face showed a mixture of anxiety and enthusiasm. "All right, everyone," he called out to the volunteers. "Let's make Jack proud." In the center of the park, a large tent housed dozens of cages, each containing a hopeful animal. Dogs, cats, rabbits, and even a lonely parrot were waiting for the chance to find a new home. Max, as the unwitting star of the show, attracted curious and admiring glances. Many residents still couldn't believe that this friendly Labrador was now the richest dog in America, as the local newspapers dubbed him. Among the crowd that was forming, Olivia Martinez arrived with her children, Lily and Ethan. She hesitated at the entrance, feeling a little out of place. "Mommy, can we see the puppies?" Lily begged, tugging on Olivia's hand. "Of course, darling," Olivia replied, forcing a smile. She wanted to participate more actively, but still felt unsure about her contribution. Meanwhile, Tom approached a group of local reporters. "This event isn't just about adopting animals," he explained. "It's about bringing our community together. Every animal adopted today is a new connection made, a new family formed." Tom's words were interrupted by a loud bark. Max had escaped from his collar and was running towards a boy in a wheelchair. The spectators held their breath, fearing an incident, but Max gently placed his head on the boy's lap, who smiled radiantly. "Look at that," murmured an elderly woman. "That dog really has a gift." The scene touched Olivia's heart. She watched as Max interacted with the children, bringing smiles to the faces of everyone around him. Something inside her moved, and she found herself walking towards Tom. "Hey," she said shyly, "is there anything I can do to help?" Tom's face lit up. "Of course, we could use an extra hand at the information booth. What do you think?" Olivia nodded, feeling for the first time truly part of something bigger. As the day progressed, the fair came alive. Families happily came out with new furry members. Children ran from stall to stall with painted faces, and the scent of popcorn and cotton candy filled the air. However, not everyone shared the festive spirit. Richard Anderson watched the scene from afar, his face a mask of disapproval. "What a waste," he muttered to himself. "All this money could be used for something more productive." As the sun began to set, Tom walked up to the small stage set up in the center of the park. "Everyone," he announced, his voice full of emotion. "Thanks to you, today we found homes for more than 50 animals. But more than that, we've shown what we can do when we come together as a community." The crowd applauded, and Max barked happily, as if he understood every word. Olivia, exhausted but happy, gathered her children together. "What did you think?" she asked. "It was the best day ever," Ethan exclaimed. "Can we do it again?" Olivia smiled, feeling a new sense of belonging. "Yes," she said. "I think we can." As the families dispersed and the volunteers began to clean up, Tom and Max stood alone in the center of the park. "Well done, buddy," Tom said, stroking Max's head. Jack would be proud. The first event had been a success, but it was only the beginning. Springfield was changing, and Max, the unlikely heir, was at the center of it all. What the future held for this small town and its millionaire dog, only time would tell. The success of the animal adoption fair had left a trail of optimism in Springfield. The city streets seemed more alive, with neighbors greeting each other with warmer smiles and livelier conversations on street corners. At the center of this community, Renaissance was Max, the millionaire Labrador, whose presence continued to inspire and unite people in unexpected ways. Olivia Martinez, still feeling the positive momentum of the previous event, found herself walking towards the Thornton mansion on a sunny fall afternoon. Her hands trembled slightly as she clutched a folder full of papers. Taking a deep breath, she rang the doorbell. Tom Wilson answered, his face lighting up when he saw Olivia. "Hey, what a nice surprise. Come in, please." The mansion, once a symbol of isolation, now looked welcoming. Max came running in, wagging his tail happily at Olivia. "So," Tom began, leading her into the living room, "what brings you here today?" Olivia hesitated for a moment before opening her briefcase. I had an idea for the next event," she said, her voice gaining confidence as she spoke. "How about a community dinner?" Tom's eyes widened with interest as Olivia explained her plan, a dinner where everyone in the town could get together, share stories, and strengthen bonds. She proposed using her culinary skills to coordinate the menu, with other residents contributing dishes typical of their families. "That's brilliant, Olivia," Tom exclaimed, his enthusiasm infectious. "It's exactly the sort of thing Jack would have loved." As they discussed the details, Max snuggled up to Olivia's feet, as if giving his canine approval to the plan. In the weeks that followed, news of the community dinner spread quickly. The community hall was chosen as the venue, and soon a list of volunteers began to grow. Olivia found herself at the center of a whirlwind of activity, coordinating menus, organizing kitchen teams, and planning the decorations. Tom, impressed by Olivia's dedication, enthusiastically began promoting the event. "This dinner isn't just about food," he explained during an interview on local radio. "It's about reconnecting as a community, sharing our stories and creating new memories together." However, not everyone in Springfield shared this enthusiasm. Richard Anderson, the local businessman, continued to spread doubts and rumors in the corners. "A waste of resources," he muttered to anyone who would listen. "Jack's money should be invested in business, not sentimental dinners." Despite the dissenting voices, preparations for the dinner went ahead. The day before the event, Olivia found herself in the kitchen of the community hall, surrounded by enthusiastic volunteers. The aroma of various dishes filled the air, a delicious mix of traditional American recipes and ethnic specialties that reflected the diversity of Springfield. "It smells wonderful in here," said Tom, entering the kitchen with Max by his side. The Labrador sniffed the air with obvious approval. Olivia smiled, a little flower on her cheek. "I hope everything works out tomorrow," she said, a hint of nervousness in her voice. Tom put a comforting hand on her shoulder. "It's going to be amazing, Olivia. You've brought the whole town together for this. Jack would be proud." As night fell over Springfield, a sense of anticipation hung in the air. The community dinner promised to be more than just a meal. It would be a celebration of the spirit of togetherness that was flourishing in the town. And at the center of it all were Olivia, Tom, and, of course, Max. The unlikely catalyst for a transformation that no one could have predicted. Springfield's community hall glowed under the soft lights of paper lanterns hung strategically everywhere. Long tables, covered with white tablecloths and decorated with simple but elegant floral arrangements, filled the space. The tantalizing aroma of a variety of dishes hung in the air, mixing with the lively buzz of conversation. Olivia Martinez stood at the entrance, greeting the arriving residents. Her face glowed with a mixture of pride and nervousness. She was wearing a simple but beautiful dress that her daughter Lily had insisted she buy for the occasion. "You look beautiful, Mommy," Lily whispered, holding Olivia's hand. Tom Wilson arrived with Max, the Labrador who was now practically a local celebrity. "Wow, Olivia," he exclaimed, looking around in awe. "This looks amazing." The hall quickly filled up. Families, senior citizens, young couples. It seemed like all of Springfield was there. Mayor Robert Adams made a pompous entrance, shaking hands and smiling at everyone. Even the grumpy Mr. Grinch, owner of the local ironworks, known for his reclusive nature, made an appearance, although he looked a little uncomfortable. As people settled in, Tom took to the small makeshift stage. "Good evening, Springfield," his voice resounded through the hall. "Welcome to our first community dinner. Before we begin, I'd like to thank the incredible Olivia Martinez for making it all possible." Warm applause filled the room, making Olivia blush. She wasn't used to being the center of attention, but the affection of her neighbors enveloped her like a comforting hug. Dinner began, and soon the room was full of lively conversation and laughter. Dishes passed from hand to hand. People shared stories about family recipes, and new friendships were forged over slices of apple pie and glasses of homemade lemonade. In the middle of the meal, something unexpected happened. Old Mr. Johnson, a war veteran who rarely talked about his past, stood up shakily. I'd like to say something," he said, his voice hoarse with emotion. The hall fell silent. 50 years ago, I came back from the war feeling lost and alone. This city took me in, gave me a home, and today, seeing you all here, well, it's as if I've finally found the family I've always wanted. There wasn't a dry eye in the hall when he finished. A wave of applause and hugs followed, with people getting up to hug Mr. Johnson and each other. Olivia, watching the scene, felt tears well up in her own eyes. She looked at Tom, who was smiling with Max by his side. "This," Tom said softly, "is exactly what Jack always wanted for Springfield." As the evening progressed, more people stood up to share their stories. Mrs. Rodriguez talked about how the community helped her when she arrived as an immigrant. Young Billy told how his neighbors came together to help his family when their house caught fire last year. Each story was a thread, weaving a rich and colorful tapestry of life in Springfield. People laughed, cried, and hugged each other, rediscovering the strength and beauty of their community. As the evening drew to a close, no one wanted to leave. People said goodbye slowly, exchanging phone numbers and making plans to meet up again. Olivia, exhausted but exhilarated, began to clean up with the help of some volunteers. Tom approached, Max trotting faithfully beside him. "You've done something really special here, Olivia," he said, his voice full of admiration. She smiled, feeling truly part of something bigger for the first time in years. "We did," she corrected. "All of us." As the last lights went out in the community hall, a new light seemed to shine on Springfield, a light of hope, of community and of possibilities. And at the center of it all, a Labrador named Max, whose unexpected legacy was transforming an entire city. The morning sun shone over Springfield's Central Park, illuminating a scene of frenetic activity. Colorful banners decorated the trees, white tents dotted the lawn, and a makeshift track snaked through the grounds. It was the day of the Big Dog Run, the latest event organized by Tom Wilson and his team. Olivia Martinez arrived early, carrying boxes of kitchen equipment. Her children, Lily and Ethan, ran ahead of her, excited at the prospect of a day full of canine fun. "Mommy, look at all the dogs," Lily exclaimed, pointing to the many dogs arriving with their owners. Olivia smiled, feeling a surge of pride. Over the last few weeks, she had become an integral part of the organizing team, taking on the role of food coordinator for the events. Tom appeared, with Max trotting faithfully at his side. The Labrador seemed especially excited today, as if he knew he was the star of the show. "Good morning, Olivia," Tom greeted, his face glowing with enthusiasm. "Ready for the big day?" Before Olivia could reply, a deep, angry voice cut through the air. "That's ridiculous." It was Richard Anderson, the local businessman, approaching with furious strides. "A dog race? Is that how you're spending Jack's money?" Tom remained calm, although his eyes betrayed a spark of irritation. "Mr. Anderson, this event isn't just about fun. We're raising funds for the city's new animal shelter." Anderson snorted, but before he could continue his diatribe, Max approached him, wagging his tail and looking up with hopeful eyes. For a moment, Anderson's expression softened, almost against his will. "Well," he muttered, "at least keep it organized." With that, he walked away, leaving Tom and Olivia exchanging looks of relief. As the morning progressed, the park filled with life. Families arrived with their dogs, from small Chihuahuas to huge St. Bernards. Children laughed and ran around, their faces painted with paw prints. The aroma of hot dogs and popcorn filled the air. Olivia coordinated the food stall efficiently, making sure all the volunteers were at their posts. She was surprised to see how many people had offered to help. It seemed that all of Springfield wanted to be part of this new community spirit. Finally, it was time for the main race. Tom stepped up to the makeshift podium, with Max by his side. "Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Springfield's first annual dog run." His voice rang out across the park. "Remember, no matter who wins today, we're all winners for being here together." The dogs were lined up at the starting line, their owners positioning themselves at the finish line with favorite treats and toys. Max, as guest of honor, would give the starting signal with a bark. The park was silent for a moment. Max looked at Tom, as if asking for permission. With a nod, Tom gave the signal, "Go, Max!" Max's bark echoed through the park, and the race began. Dogs of all sizes and breeds shot down the track, some running in a straight line, others getting distracted by butterflies or stopping to sniff the grass. The crowd erupted in laughter and applause, cheering on their favorites. In the end, it was Buddy, a lame old beagle, who crossed the finish line first to everyone's surprise and delight. As the medals were handed out and photos taken, Olivia watched the scene with a smile. She saw families laughing together, neighbors who barely spoke to each other now chatting animatedly, and even the grumpy Mr. Anderson smiling discreetly as he stroked a golden retriever. Tom approached her, Max at his side. "Amazing, isn't it?" he said, his voice full of admiration. "Look what we've managed to do together." Olivia nodded, feeling a surge of emotion. "It's like Springfield is being reborn," she replied softly. As the sun began to set, casting a golden glow over the park, there was a palpable feeling in the air. A feeling that something had changed in Springfield, something deep and lasting. And at the center of it all was Max, the unlikely heir, whose presence continued to unite and inspire an entire community. Autumn in Springfield was in full force, with golden and red leaves dancing in the streets of the small town. As the days grew shorter and the nights colder, a sense of change hung in the air, not only in nature, but also among the residents. In the Thornton Mansion, now a vibrant center of community activity, Tom Wilson was sitting in front of the fireplace, reviewing plans for upcoming events. Max, the Labrador who had become the beating heart of Springfield, rested at his feet, occasionally lifting his head for a distracted cuddle. A soft knock on the door interrupted her thoughts. It was Olivia Martinez, carrying a stack of papers and a determined look on her face. "Hey, Tom," she said, entering the room. "I hope I'm not interrupting." Tom smiled, genuinely happy to see her. Over the last few months, Olivia had become not only a valuable partner in community projects, but also a close friend. "Never," he replied, indicating the chair next to her. "What have you got there?" Olivia sat down, spreading out the papers on the coffee table. Ideas for the next big event. I've been thinking, what if we did something for the children? A fall festival, maybe. As they discussed the details, Tom couldn't help noticing how Olivia had changed. The shy, insecure woman he had met months ago had transformed into a confident, passionate leader. Her eyes sparkled with enthusiasm as she talked about games, pumpkin contests, and a haunted house for Halloween. "That's brilliant, Olivia," Tom said in admiration. "You really have a gift for it." Olivia blushed slightly at the compliment. "It's easy when you have such an amazing community supporting you," she replied. As they continued to plan, the conversation naturally drifted to more personal matters. Olivia talked about how her children, Lily and Ethan, were doing better at school, inspired by the new community spirit. Tom shared funny stories about Max's antics during visits to local schools. Time flew by, and soon the golden light of sunset began to seep through the mansion's windows. Tom and Olivia were surprised to realize that they had spent hours talking. "God, it's so late," Olivia exclaimed, starting to gather up her papers. "I should go." Just then Max, who had been quiet until then, stood up and put his head in Olivia's lap, looking at her with his big brown eyes. Tom laughed. "I don't think he wants you to leave just yet. How about dinner? I can order a pizza." Olivia hesitated for a moment, but then smiled. "You know what? That would be great." As they waited for the pizza, sitting on the terrace of the mansion with the view of Springfield stretching out before them, Tom and Olivia reflected on how much their lives had changed in recent months. "Sometimes," Olivia said softly, "I wonder if Jack knew what he was doing when he left everything to Max. It's as if he saw it all coming." Tom nodded thoughtfully. "Jack always said that true wealth lies in the connections we make with others. I think he wanted us to rediscover that." As the sky turned pink and orange, Tom and Olivia continued talking, laughing and sharing stories. Max, lying between them, seemed to smile, as if he knew he was witnessing the birth of something special. As night fell over Springfield, a new sense of possibility hung in the air. For Tom and Olivia, and for the whole town, the future looked bright and full of promise, all thanks to an unlikely Labrador and the legacy of love he represented. Autumn in Springfield had reached its peak, with the trees displaying an explosion of red, gold, and orange colors. The fresh air carried the scent of apples and cinnamon, heralding the arrival of the long-awaited Fall Festival. The city's Central Park had been transformed into a magical setting. Colorful stalls lined the paths, offering games, typical food and local crafts. A huge inflatable pumpkin marked the entrance to the corn maze, while in the distance, a haunted house promised chills and scares for the bravest. Tom Wilson was at the center of it all, coordinating the last details with a mixture of enthusiasm and nervousness. Max Mars, the heir-apparent Labrador, walked beside him, wearing a small orange scarf around his neck that identified him as the canine host of the event. "Tom!" Olivia Martinez's voice cut through the buzz of the crowd. She approached, carrying a clipboard and with a beaming smile on her face. "The judges for the pumpkin pie contest have just arrived. Everything is ready to start in half an hour." Tom nodded, feeling a wave of gratitude for having Olivia by his side. Over the past few months, she had become not only his partner in organizing community events, but also a close friend and confidant. "Great," he replied, giving a tired but happy smile. "And the children? Have they arrived for the treasure hunt?" "They're gathering near the merry-go-round." Olivia pointed to a lively group of children, all dressed up in early Halloween costumes. Among them, Lily and Ethan, Olivia's children, were waving enthusiastically. As the festival came to life, the residents of Springfield began to arrive in droves. Families strolled hand in hand, elderly people shared stories about past festivals, and teenagers crowded around the games of skill. On the main stage, Mayor Robert Adams gave an opening speech, praising the community spirit that had blossomed in recent months. "This festival," he declared, "is a testament to what we can achieve when we come together, and it's all thanks to a very special dog and the wonderful people he has inspired." The festival's activities were in full swing. The pumpkin pie contest drew an enthusiastic crowd, with Mrs. Johnson, the local librarian, taking first prize with her secret family recipe. In the corn maze, laughter and cries of surprise echoed as families tried to find their way out. Max, always the center of attention, took part in a demonstration of canine tricks, charming the audience with his intelligence and charisma. Children flocked to pet him, and he received every touch with an enthusiastic wag of his tail. As the day progressed, Tom and Olivia finally had a moment to breathe. Sitting on a bench near the carousel, they watched the scene with a mixture of pride and admiration. "Look at this," Olivia said softly. "Can you believe how much Springfield has changed?" Tom nodded, feeling a surge of emotion. "It's incredible. And to think it all started with—" His words were interrupted by a sudden scream coming from the direction of the haunted house. Tom and Olivia jumped to their feet, exchanging worried glances. Max, who was standing nearby, raised his ears, alert. "What was that?" Olivia asked, the concern evident in her voice. "I don't know," Tom replied, already moving in the direction of the sound. "But we'd better go and check it out." As they raced towards the haunted house, with Max in the lead, the festival that had been a celebration of togetherness and joy seemed about to face an unexpected challenge. What awaited Tom, Olivia, and Max in the haunted house was a mystery. But one thing was certain. Together, they would face whatever it was. The scream echoed again, louder and more urgent, as Tom, Olivia, and Max ran towards the haunted house. Tom's heart was pounding in his chest, not from fear, but from worry about what they might find. As they approached, they saw a crowd forming at the entrance to the attraction. Worried and confused faces turned to Tom for guidance. He took a deep breath, assuming the role of leader he had become in recent months. "Please stay calm," Tom said in a loud, clear voice. "Let's find out what's going on." Olivia was already in action, organizing the volunteers to keep people away and make sure no one entered the house. Max, sensing the tension in the air, stayed alert at Tom's side. Carefully, Tom and Olivia entered the haunted house, with Max close behind. The interior was dark, lit only by strobe lights and neon that flashed menacingly. Fake cobwebs and creepy dolls decorated the walls. "Anyone here?" Tom called out, his voice echoing through the gloomy corridors. A muffled sob came from a nearby room. Tom and Olivia exchanged glances before moving in the direction of the sound. As they turned the corner, they were shocked by what they saw. Richard Anderson, the local businessman who had been so critical of their efforts, was sitting on the floor, holding his ankle and with tears in his eyes. Next to him, a young girl, his granddaughter, Emily, held his hand looking frightened and worried. "Mr. Anderson?" Olivia exclaimed, rushing over to help. "What happened?" Anderson looked up, a mixture of pain and shame on his face. I wanted to prove that this was all a waste of time," he admitted reluctantly. "I came here to sabotage the haunted house, but I tripped, and I think I twisted my ankle." Tom was silent for a moment, processing the information. Part of him wanted to be angry, but when he saw the fallen and frightened man, he felt only compassion. "Let's get you out of here," Tom finally said, holding out his hand to help Anderson to his feet. As Tom and Olivia helped Anderson out of the house, with Max leading the way, Emily explained that she had followed her grandfather, suspecting his intentions. She was the one who screamed when she saw him fall. Outside, the crowd fell silent at the sight of Anderson being helped out. Murmurs of surprise and confusion spread, but Tom quickly took control of the situation. "Everyone, we've had a bit of an accident, but everything's fine now," he announced. "Please continue enjoying the festival. The haunted house will be closed for a few minutes for a quick safety inspection." While the paramedics tended to Anderson, Tom, Olivia, and Max stood back a little, trying to process what had happened. "I can't believe it," Olivia muttered. "After all we've done for the city." Tom nodded, but there was a glint of understanding in his eyes. "You know, I think I understand why he did it. Fear of change, of losing control. Sometimes people do foolish things when they're scared." At that moment, Emily approached them, tears in her eyes. "Please don't be angry with my grandfather," she begged. He's just afraid of being left behind." Tom knelt down to be at the girl's eye level. "Don't worry, Emily. No one will be left behind in Springfield, not even your grandfather." As the festival continued around them, Tom, Olivia, and Max watched Anderson being taken to the local hospital. The incident had been a powerful reminder that the community's journey of coming together was not yet complete. But it also showed how far they had come. "What do we do now?" Olivia asked softly. Tom looked at her, then at Max, and finally at the town that had become so united in recent months. "We carry on," he said with determination. "We keep building bridges, even with those who try to tear them down." And with that, they headed back to the festival, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, together. The sun was setting over Springfield, casting a golden glow over the city that had undergone so many changes in recent months. In the Central Park, the remnants of the fall festival were still visible, colorful banners swaying gently in the evening breeze, remnants of straw from the corn maze scattered across the lawn, and the lingering scent of caramel apples in the air. Tom Wilson was sitting on a park bench, Max lying faithfully at his feet. Olivia Martinez joined them, bringing 2 cups of steaming hot chocolate. "I thought we could use this," she said, handing Tom a cup with a tired but satisfied smile. Tom accepted the drink gratefully, feeling the warmth spread through his hands. "Thanks," he murmured, looking out over the city that stretched out before them. "What a day, huh?" Olivia nodded, taking a seat next to him. "I never imagined it would end like this." The incident with Richard Anderson in the haunted house had been an unexpected turning point. After being taken to hospital, it turned out that his ankle was only slightly sprained. But the real miracle happened in the hours that followed. Residents of Springfield, upon hearing about the accident, started showing up at the hospital, not to condemn Anderson, but to offer support. People he had belittled or tried to sabotage in recent months showed up with flowers, cards, and words of encouragement. "You know," Tom said, breaking the silence, "I think I finally understand what Jack meant about true wealth." Olivia looked at him, curious. "What do you mean?" Tom stroked Max's head as he spoke. "It wasn't about the money. It never was. It was about this." He gestured broadly to the city. "Community connections. The power of people coming together to make a difference." At that moment, as if summoned by his words, they saw a group approaching. It was Richard Anderson, leaning on crutches, accompanied by his granddaughter Emily and several other residents. Tom and Olivia stood up, surprised. Max wagged his tail, as if sensing the importance of the moment. Anderson stopped in front of them, his face a mixture of emotions, shame, regret, but also a spark of hope. I came to apologize," he began, his voice trembling, "for everything. I was so focused on what I thought we were losing that I didn't see what we were gaining." Tom held out his hand, which Anderson shook gratefully. "We all make mistakes," Tom said gently. "The important thing is to learn from them." Olivia stepped forward. "Mr. Anderson, we'd like you to join us. Your business experience could be invaluable in helping to manage the community's funds." Anderson's eyes widened in surprise, then filled with tears. I'd be honored," he managed to say. While the group talked, planning the future of Springfield, Max watched everything with his wise dog eyes. Suddenly, he stood up and walked to the center of the circle, sitting down and looking at every face around him. Tom laughed softly. "I think Max is reminding us who the real hero is here." Everyone laughed, the tension of the last few months finally dissipating completely. As night fell over Springfield, the city lights began to flicker, each one representing a home, a family, a story. Tom looked at Olivia, at Anderson, at all the faces around him, and felt a wave of gratitude and hope. Jack's legacy, through Max, had transformed Springfield in ways no one could have predicted. It wasn't just about a dog inheriting a fortune. It was about a community rediscovering its heart, its strength, and its capacity to love and forgive. As the group walked back to town, with Max leading the way, Tom knew that this was not an end, but a new beginning. Springfield had changed forever, and the future, although uncertain, seemed full of bright possibilities. And at the center of it all, a Labrador named Max, the unlikely heir who had taught an entire town the true meaning of wealth and community.